Hey, I won't waste your time. Hey, us is where we shine. Teaching Tuesday. It's more than just another day. Teaching Tuesday. Find your answers in this place. Teaching Tuesday. Teaching Tuesday.
Welcome back. It's time for another, you guessed it, Teaching Tuesday. And today we're going to talk about something that might be considered a bit of a buzzword, but we're going to get to the bottom of this whole concept called work-life balance. And to help me out, I'm not going to do it myself. So do me a favor. If you're on Facebook, make sure you're commenting. If you're on LinkedIn, make sure you're commenting. If you're on YouTube, make sure you're commenting. TikTok, you comment too, because today's conversation is going to be one for the books. My special guest today is Deb Lester, an amazing entrepreneur, marketing consultant, but she is the tremendous, phenomenal founder of a community called Conquer with Deb. I am so excited to bring her on because she spends her days and her nights figuring out how to uplift women who are focused and ready to make massive transformation. So without further ado, y'all give up a warm virtual welcome to Deb Lester. Get in here, girl.
Stephanie. Hey.
Hey, what's going on?
Girl, nothing much. Slow morning, but we in here. You know how it is.
Slow morning, girl. Every time I look up, you're in my feed. What do you mean? What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
Yeah. We'll get into it.
You.
Yeah.
Listen, we're going to get into it for real. So thank you so much for coming on today and talking about this whole concept of work-life balance, because we need to talk about this. I think people are not understanding what this really means, how it affects their lives, their business, their love life, their bottom line. And you know what? Like I said, this is going to be one for the books. And so I just want to jump in. What do you think?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
All right. So we talk about balance a lot now in the 21st century. Everybody needs to heal and hydrate and balance and all of the things. But let's bring it back a little bit. And I'm curious to know, how has the concept known as balance impacted your life?
It's been so many seasons of like extremes, and then seasons of what probably is a little bit more balance that I want. I've had the season of working too much, and you don't go to the birthday parties. You miss the moments. You realize, dang, like I need to cook a little 1, 2 and sit down somewhere with a little lunch. Like, and then you have the seasons where you lean away from work too much. And you know how that is. You feel like you can't get back into it. Everything looks so complicated, but I've had seasons of it all. Then I feel like the season I'm kind of conquering right now is a little bit a sweet mix of it.
Yeah.
So maybe because the Christmas spirit gonna be in 2 seconds.
I love it, right? So we're going to be talking about 2026 like that. You know, I really feel, though, because you said that there were different seasons, I really feel like there was a time when we really didn't even discuss balance, right? We just knew we had this busy season, or we just knew, you know, like we felt like the weight of the world was on our shoulders. I don't know that we really called it balance. When do you feel like the idea of balance began to come into play for you as what we see it now?
It's a good question. I think it's a couple of things. When I notice how many moments I'm missing out on. I feel like I went in professionally, but I'm feeling a bit lonely. It'll just be different things that kind of stick out in my personal life, and I'm like, oh, I need to be more human. And I talked about this a little bit the other day about how at one point in my journey, I was talking to my therapist about making sure that Conquer didn't consume or become my identity. Like, I was struggling with that for a bit. I had this thing where I launched my business. I spent so much money on it. I loved it so much. And then I just woke up every day just ready to work. Like, people thought I was crazy, but like I was ready to work. And that became my identity. And I struggled with that. I struggled with why people didn't understand, that I had something special. Like I struggled with that. But my therapist was like, girl, you need some hobbies and we need a new value system. So I had to start leaning into that. And that helped me kind of conquer like this business not becoming my entire identity. It was tough for me though at that time, but it's hard.
You know what? I can absolutely relate. And I almost feel like to a certain degree, for me, the idea of balance came into play when I really started to fall face first into the idea of healing and what that really meant, and I'll tell anybody who will listen, I'm a recovering codependent. I'm recovering from codependency as well as people pleasing behavior. And
Mm.
that being said, that's when the ideas around balance really came into play. And I think for me, they were physical before they were mental. For a long time, I was really focused on how our minds and our bodies kind of go together,
Mm-hmm.
how the body really wants balance. They call it homeostasis, and how the body will fight you for
Yep.
balance
Yep.
and healing and all of those things. And, for me, I started to say something about where imbalance is present, abundance is fleeting. And so when I got into the idea of abundance and what abundance really was, that's where a little more of the shift happened. And then I added, more to the statement where imbalance is present, abundance is fleeting, and disease is inevitable. And so I made this whole full circle piece. But I really feel like understanding that, and I think I used to talk about the seesaw, right? Understanding that not only is balance a thing,
Mm-hmm.
but it is actually the thing. It can be the barrier between where we are and where we want to go.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it's not always about um meditating.
Yeah.
It's not
And manifesting.
it's not always about, manifesting and all of these ethereal things. It's really sometimes about looking at your calendar going, yeah, we're not gonna be able to do that.
Yeah. It's, I have twofold on that because I always say like I'm not mad at people talk about hustle culture. I'm not mad at hustle culture because I think in order to do something deep, in order to do something big, in order to do something next level and visionary, it is a level of sacrifice that most of us that say we want it cannot comprehend. I think that. But I also know what happens when you do that too much. And it was interesting, Stephanie, how you were saying that you're like healing from like the people pleasing and codependency.
Mhm.
I think from my journey, which is just an example of another extreme, I was dealing from like being an avoidant.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the perfect spot for me to be in. Oh, look, I'm busy. I got the perfect excuse not to answer my phone. I got the perfect excuse not to be in your face. I got the perfect excuse to do that. So it was me healing from selfish thoughts and behaviors and understanding like you don't have to keep people at arm's length. Nobody is coming to hurt you. So it was interesting that you said that I had an extreme version of that for sure.
That's so good. And I'm sure this, I'm a huge proponent of something I call hustle freedom, but
Mhm.
there's a piece in that you just mentioned that, there are times when we have to put that work in, right?
Yeah.
And there's a bit of sacrifice that comes into that. But you said the key thing, that's not sustainable.
No.
It's just not sustainable.
Yeah.
But I love what you said about having the perfect excuse, because I think that's where it starts.
Hmm.
Where we're avoiding certain things, right? Because healing means avoiding, and for some reason in this world, we need an excuse. But I think also many of us made excuses. We had to find an excuse so that doing what was best for us was okay. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
Like I self-parent sometimes, right? And in my self-parenting, I'll say things like, "Oh, so you want to go get a green smoothie from Tropical Smoothie? That's cute. Why don't you wash those dishes first?" And there's nothing wrong with that, right? There's
Mhm.
nothing wrong with that. But I think there's really something wrong with, "Oh, you want to take a nap? Well, when you finish these 13 things on your to-do list, then you can take a
Then you
nap."
can lay
As
down.
if right. And I'm like, but we don't need to earn
Oh,
rest. We don't need
yeah.
to earn balance. We don't need to earn the right. Sometimes I don't do things. Wait, y'all, this is going to be a shocker. TikTok, get ready to be shocked. Jada West in the building, the style mother's in the building, mother, the mover. I always say mother in my head because that's how I talk to my goddaughter. So
Yeah.
yes, the style mover is in the building. And that's Shauna Solomon of Shauna Solomon. Words today, Stephanie, Shauna Solomon and Associates. But here's the thing that really concerns me is that we deserve that. And sometimes we push away from that because I'm gonna be honest, and this is my shocker of the day, right? Sometimes I don't do things just because I don't want to do it.
That's probably the majority of the time. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
That's real.
learning that that's okay.
That's so real.
I don't have to have a reason. I don't have to be, well, I've got a meeting today, so I can't do that. No, I just don't want to do it.
Right, facts. Mm-hmm.
It's a no
Yeah,
because it's a no.
that's real.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes me think about earlier when you talk about like your body. I know, like for me, the other day, it was one day, probably in the past couple of days, I was like, I have nothing in my tank. Like I ain't got nothing motivational to say. I have no coaching in me, and I normally can coach 24/7 up and down. I was like, I have nothing left. And I just got in bed, found something to fall asleep with on Netflix, and that was it. And okay, that leads me to say, Stephanie, too, if we think about how to experience when we go into a step deeper, it also had a time where I had to conquer this about myself, about
Mm.
resting or calling myself resting. But while I was resting, I was feeling guilty. I was like, dang, look, she's showing up, and here I
Oh,
am in the bed for 3 days in a row. Or, dang, you should have been executing on that idea, but you still in your mental health era, and it's 4 weeks. Like, it looked like I'm resting, and I'm tricking myself into thinking I'm resting. But I'm feeling guilty and not giving myself grace about what I'm doing. You said something earlier, and it reminds me of something I talk about, which is we gonna all walk our walk. Like it's tough.
mm,
You're gonna have to it's just what it is. But I talk
yeah.
about being your own best friend. Like the same way that if I called you Stephanie, I was like, girl, I'm down and out today. You'll be like, girl, if you don't rest, or if you like, you would give me so much grace. You would see the
I would.
brilliance in me. You would see the hard work in me.
I
And that
would.
was something where I had to stop. I was like, Deb, you gotta start treating yourself like you do all these other people that you empower and be on your Oprah platform to all the time. If you're not giving yourself that same grace, that's what's gonna make you a fraud. That's what's gonna
Yeah.
keep on pushing that imposter
Yeah.
syndrome. Like
Yeah.
trusting yourself, giving yourself grace and leaning on yourself. And I had to start. If I'm off and it ain't getting done, I think about it. But guess what? Baby, it is what it is. I got to give myself a little day or two. I come back clearer, I come back stronger. But that resting without guilt was tough.
Oh, that is so good. I want to get into that right after we get into this because I need to show you what you've got over at the vault. Let me pay a couple of bills real quick and we'll be right back.
Have you been on a weight loss journey and the scale just isn't giving you the results you hoped for? Well, meet Thinner, an FDA registered, all natural, homeopathic approach that addresses the root causes of how to lose weight and keep it off, especially if hormones are an issue. If you're tired of all of the guesswork and doing it alone, scan the QR code for more info and let's get you started today.
All right, that's Thinner by my good friend. Is being brought to you by my good friend at the Vault in East
On
Texas.
the
It's
vault.
amazing, 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 amazing process and program that she has available. So make sure that y'all get into that. So speaking of things that we can get into, guilt, resting without guilt, balance without guilt. Listen, I think that most of the people watching this on TikTok, on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, we're streaming everywhere, girl. We all over the place. Look at us. Hey,
We outside this morning.
hey, outside. Hey, so the guilt. I
It's
hear
real.
people say that so much. It absolutely is real, and I think that's part of the reason why the idea of doing what is best for you is so contrived, because how dare you turn off your computer and go take a nap? How dare you block off your calendar? Like, people look so surprised when I say, I only see clients on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And they almost look at me sometimes, except for those that know me. They're like, "So what are you doing the rest of the week?" Trying to make sure I stay in
In the
balance,
game.
trying to make sure I'm not overgiving and overperforming, trying to make sure that the things that I need to do that work well for my business and for our team and all the things that we have coming up stay in balance. Like I refuse to be a hypocrite. Hypocrisy is one of the things that scares me the most. So since you brought it up, Deb, what did you do about the guilt?
I can't say that it's completely gone. And now because I am trying to bust my business wide open and do everything possible. But I think it's been, and I talk about this a little bit too, where, building my business has been like a self, it's on my eat, pray, love. It's like a self-love thing. And it's like, Deb, if you're gonna do this, like you've got to do it with some grace. You've got to do it like knowing that the world's not gonna end, that people aren't gonna forget about you if you don't show up online for one day. Like just rewiring my mind. And also something that my therapist encouraged me to do was just making sure that I have stuff outside of my business, stuff I don't charge for. Like people always tell me, are you so good at makeup? Like, why don't you do makeup? And I'm like, girl, because if I turn it into a business, it's gonna be a business. Like it's gonna become a whole thing, and it's not a release anymore. Or I like hosting. Like I do a little grape and cheese board. People are like, oh my God, you should sell those. I'm like, no. I need stuff that just charges me up just as a woman, just so that I have identity, so that I learn how to just breathe and socialize. And you said something good too, Stephanie, like realizing and admitting that you're a bit of an overperformer. Like you're a bit thriving off the validation a bit too much. Like this being a part of your identity, you kind of like it a little bit, but you understand it's dangerous. So just unraveling some very real stuff for myself. A lot of self-awareness that I didn't even want at times.
Girl, you dropping like massive gems. I don't know if we're at Jacob the Jewelers or if we're on Teaching Tuesday over here. Is Jacob the Jeweler still a thing or am I old?
Ooh,
Don't answer
girl.
that. Nobody. Nobody answer that. Nobody answer that. Don't you answer that. But you said something that I think it really gets overlooked, right? Is doing things that you're not getting paid for.
Mhm.
I think that is such an overlooked hack
Yeah.
in our lives.
We talk about,
And
yeah.
yeah, talk more about that.
Yeah, that's something that we talk about in our community a lot. Is I'm always telling my girls, what hobbies you got going on in this season? What you doing for fun? What you doing as a person? What you doing as, and me, I'm married. I don't have any kids yet, but what do I do independently, just as myself? Am I going out just to lunch on a regular basis? Do I have a little hobby? Girl, I found myself Stephanie taking a ballet class. My big old butt girl the winter got me a leotard and some tights, channeling my inner, 5-year-old oneself. And I was like, nobody here follows me. I'm not talking about having a business. I'm just a 30-some-year-old girl doing ballet, getting better at it, learning like just wholeness that I didn't
Yeah.
even know I needed, because I actually enjoyed that overperforming season, as dangerous as it was. But I saw what it was, how it was giving me even more imposter syndrome. Because what you talk about earlier, hypocrisy. I'm like, bro, behind the scenes, I'm struggling. Like I look good on Facebook. Behind the scenes, I'm struggling. That's fueling my imposter syndrome even more. Because I'm like, I look like a freaking hypocrite. And so now I'm like, if you can just start liking yourself and, getting yourself together a little bit, then I don't have to feel like an imposter when I get on live and talk about being consistent and being myself, because I'm starting to actually live it instead of just looking like it.
Live it instead of looking like it, y'all. Period. All right. I just dropped into my Gen Z real quick. Period. Right? I love it when they do that. So,
Yeah.
man, you're saying, I actually did at one point. I was a dancer for 10 years of my life when I was younger. And in my adult life, I went back to adult ballet. And you can't see me, but it's some hips and thighs and buttocks in this
Baby.
shit, baby. And I dropped that grand plie, like, because it's just in slow motion, like you just dropping it low. Okay. Anywho, what we're not gonna do is reflect on what might be my past, situation. But I was a ballet tap and jazz dancer for 10 years.
Oh, I did tap
And
in like high school.
Listen, and was mortified when I didn't make the drill team, but that's a whole nother traumatic conversation about growing up in a small town
Yeah.
and all these other things. But anywho, one of the girls that made drill team was in a car wreck and her leg was shattered, but somehow she still made it. And I'm still like, she didn't even dance. But
Mm.
let's not digress. Let's keep going. So I love the idea, because some people think I am insane because I do this. One of my hobbies is really creating or making. And if you catch me right, I have friends that I have literally done like their graphics or whatever, and they're like, why aren't you charging me? And I'm like, because this is a catharsis for me. This is how I'm you're not paying me. I'm just messing around, and I'm just doing stuff and it feels
Mm.
good. And sometimes
Mhm.
sometimes I get this wild hair and I need to make soap, or I just need to make something, and it's like, okay, I gotta make it. I gotta make it. And I think those things they're so important. They're so important to have those times when, I'm not Stephanie D. McKenzie, and you can go to stephaniedmckenzie.com and all of that. But you just have those moments when I'm Steph or Stephanie or that chick or whatever, and just like enjoying those moments, which really makes me feel very strongly that the problem, if there is a problem with balance, it's not with the actual balance, it's with imbalance.
Mhm.
Because when we're letting too many things, it's all about, nothing wrong with it being about the business, but it can't all be about the business.
Right.
Nothing wrong
Right.
with it being about, with us, going to ballet, but it's not all ballet. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? It's not
Mhm.
all of these things. Finding that balance is so super duper key. I'm
Mhm.
curious though, what happens that you can tell, if you want to tell, what happens to you when you have imbalance?
Mm. My creative and creating. um, I think it's a couple of things. I feel like I need to go replicate someone else or something else. That's how I know I'm out of whack, because I'm not tapped into myself. She said we need a video. That's so funny. Oh, when I feel like I need to go replicate someone else or something else, that's how I know I'm out of balance. When I feel my personal relationships slipping, I know I'm out of balance. I look and realize, hey, I ain't took my friend in 3 weeks. Like, what you got going on, Deb? Like, you realize I lost my dad and my grandma this year. So that gave me perspective that, yeah, I was like, you need to be calling people. It ain't that much going live in the world. Um, the biggest one for me is when I feel like I need to always pull from outside. If I feel like I need to go I need to go on TikTok and see what the other girls are doing. I need to go with that. Like, that's always how I make my fastest, dailiest mistakes in my business. So I think it's when I feel like I've got to go outside of myself to find answers. I know it's time for me to be still a little bit.
Mm. Yeah, I can definitely relate to that, because you really start to feel it. And I think for me, it can go one of two ways. And before I say that, let me give a shout out to everybody who's in the room, because I don't want to miss anybody. Hey, Lynette Beeman, who is actually the proprietor, founder, CEO, all the things of The Vault. Jada West in the house. She is your favorite brand outfitter and the founder of the Unshy Movement. Who else was in here? If you don't comment, I can't call you out, so do better. Over on TikTok, I see Pawpaw's Ice Cream Truck, LT of Get Your Shift Together, Mika's in the house. I can't tell who else because I can't see. Uh, hey, Micah, what's going on? Pamela, Jada actually did a jump from TikTok over to YouTube because she wanted the full experience. So let's get it.
Okay.
Let's go. Let's go. Hey, hey,
Yeah.
hey. And I see we have some dance sisters, did tap and jazz for a hot second. I'm not
Yeah.
putting that other comment up, Lynette. You're just going to have to go without it. I think for me, when the imbalance is present, right? For
Mhm.
one, I'm not going to do the imbalance is present, abundance is fleeting. What happens for me, honestly, is that I start to get really quiet. I start to get really quiet, and not in that deep, pensive, I'm trying to find myself and connect with my inner child type of way, but in the, yeah, what's going on here? Things just don't feel right. I don't feel solid.
Mm.
I don't feel solid. And I'm just going to be honest with y'all. So my patience gets thin.
Mm.
My
That's
patience gets
different.
real, real thin, and everybody can get some. Like, don't poke the bear. Like, don't do it. Yeah, I'll tell people I am not stable enough for this foolishness. And so my capacity decreases. I told somebody the other day, grace is my default setting. I try to give grace, especially to people in my life that I care about. If I care about you, I'm going to give you grace.
Yeah.
If you say, dang, Stephanie, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I'm going to give you grace. That's what I'm going to do. But baby, when that capacity is depleted,
watch out now.
you don't even want to know. You don't even want to know, because it's like, girl, who is this person? And I can feel it. And it becomes harder for me to emotionally regulate.
Yeah.
I'm always this close to popping off, which then means I need to take that quiet moment, but in a different context. I do need that quiet moment, but I need to regroup. I need to make it a point to get still. Sometimes I need to go out and have a quiet dinner. Sometimes I just need to vent with, one of my girlfriends or, one of my guy friends. I have a ton of God brothers and God sisters. I had to make a family because I have my father has a daughter, and that's all I have to say about that. Okay, great. So y'all got that. So, I have to start to seek out before I completely tap out. Because I've done that. I have tapped out and people are like, what's going on? And what is it? And again, there's nothing wrong with tapping out. It's the reason why I tapped out. Because I didn't have any capacity. Like you said, I didn't have anything to give. And so I'm still trying to give because people need me to give. And I'm like, nah, I'm gonna have to, give y'all 2 days notice, or 2 weeks notice. I've got to tap out of this. Give me a second to regroup and not just go into hiding. I think I was on a live about 5 years ago and somebody said hiding ain't healing, and it's not.
That's right.
And that is stuck in my brain. You know what I mean? Like, hiding ain't gonna fix this.
You know what I realized too, Stephanie, is when we talk about the word hiding, it also makes me think about what you said earlier. When you talk about, it's so good, having a gift that's like super, like deep in your purpose, right? You have a gift that's deep in your purpose. And you said something that I kind of want to revisit is this idea of I'm so good at it and it comes so easy to me that I give it away almost too much. And I've seen that actually cause a little bit of the burnout and loss of self-trust because you don't even know that you can trust yourself with your gift because you've seen how people's tune change with they, as much as we gave out. This is why we talk about having a little balance, a little bit of being selfish. I love so much. Like, yeah, if you're gonna get that, I'm gonna need a little return on my investment with that. Like, I'm gonna need to, because when I know that I will give that away too much and I lose trust in myself. I lose trust in the way that I have friendships. I lose trust in the way that I have relationships. I lose trust with myself with my business because I know I'll do that for you. Oh, girl, that's easy. That's nothing. You ain't gotta send nothing back to me. And then I do that 2 times. I'm cool. 6 times y'all pushing it, and 12 times I'm mad. But it was a situation that a cycle that I created for myself. So I also think about balance in knowing when you're like, you talk about like your giver cup, like it's at the rim. This is all I have to give, and I'm cool with that. Can't nobody make me feel guilty about that, and it just is what it is. Especially with our business and us feeling like, oh, I'm so good at that, girl. I do it. I'll be like, oh, that's nothing. And then I'll be mumbling under my breath. They ain't grateful for all the time I put into. I'm like, well, you the one that was up there raising your hand trying to be everybody's friend and give this thing away. You opened up the door wide open and they walked through it as you invited them to with a smile on your face.
Yeah.
And that creates a cycle of you understanding, well, I can't trust when I need to help people. So that fuels even more of that imposter syndrome, more of that I need to back away, or more of that, oh, I need to go in my mental health era. No, you need to understand how powerful whatever you create is, and you kind of need to start walking in that a little bit more.
Absolutely. With unapologetically, I think is the challenge. And I think that happens to people more often than not. You bring up such good points that when we're good at something, we give it away so freely sometimes. And to the point that even when we charge for it, sometimes we don't see the value. That was one of the problems I had early in my
Oh,
career
girl,
because
yes, that's real.
I was like, I didn't know, how do you say this? I don't know that I was allowed to be quote unquote good at that because it came so easy and it gives you the illusion, well, if it comes this easy for me, it must come this easy for everybody. I could be 10 years 10, 15 years down the road before I realized that the way I think about things and the way I move and the way I strategize are not the way everybody else does. And there's value to that. And it's okay to put value to that. It's okay to put high dollar value to that. It's okay to do, to do that. It's okay to not volunteer it. Because one of the things that you just said that I also say is that when people want to run around and talk about how they have trust issues, you don't have trust issues with another person. You got trust issues with
With
yourself.
yourself. Yep.
You haven't
So
learned how to
relatable.
check in and
Yep.
stop. Like if I have a visceral reaction to something, if somebody says something and I'm like, guess what? Now it's until it's a heck yes or a hell yes. It's
Right.
a hell no.
That's right.
And I think we that is a part of moving from a place of reckless, willful self-abandonment and understanding that two things can be true for me, right? I can be really good at what I do and not want to do it for you.
Mm-hmm. That's real.
I can want to do something for you, but need to advocate for when and how it gets done. Even with my mother, she'll say, oh, I need help doing so and so. And I'll be like, when do you need it? Because if you need it right now, unfortunately, I don't have right now to give.
Right. That's real.
Sometimes I do.
That's
Sometimes
real.
I do.
Right.
But sometimes I don't.
Right.
And so at the end of the day, honoring that and saying, Steph ain't got it.
Yep.
And so
That's
if
real.
Steph decides to pull it out for anybody, Steph is just engaged in willful self-abandonment, willful self-rejection. And now I'm curating energies into my actual existence that will not serve me well. And they're absolutely cancerous and they can run all over your life and all over your relationships. And the next thing you know, you're going, what just happened?
Facts. Full of resentment. That's real.
Absolutely.
So real.
Absolutely.
Why do you think
Absolutely.
it's like a matter of trying to like advocate for yourself? Do you think that it's something that maybe we learned, or is it a self-esteem
Yes.
thing, or you think
Yes. Wait, I'm like, yes and yes.
No,
I had a
no.
conversation. I had a conversation with a client today, Deb, and she was saying some things that her mom was telling her. And I was like, oh, is your mom a boomer? She was like, yes. And I said, well, okay. My mom is in what they call the traditionalist or the silent generation. And what we have to understand about our parents, if you're Gen X, millennial, or Gen Z, right? What we all must understand about our parents. Now, if you're a Gen X with a Gen Z parent, this may not apply, but probably will. We were raised by people who were running towards survival. Okay, not running from survival, running towards survival. Okay, survival does not give way to a word I think I made up, thrival.
Yeah, I feel you.
I think I made that up. I made that whole word up. Don't you judge me. It's okay. But because of that, their textbook is one of survival. Come early, work hard, don't cause problems. Well, if you turn that into the modern age, work harder than everybody else. Don't advocate for yourself. Don't confront issues and challenges, and so on and so on and so forth. And so it was like they did the best they could. But if you want better than their best, you got to have a different text. You got to adopt a different text. And if you never do that, if you just say, yeah, you know what? I got to come early and stay late. And then they'll recognize me and see me as awesome. No, they won't. They'll recognize you and see you as a worker.
Mm-hmm.
And how many people do we know that are still in corporate upset because they didn't get promoted, and they're like, but I worked on the project and I was the lead and and d. But next thing you know, Susie and Karen got promoted, but they always go to happy hour. Yeah, babe. Yeah, babe. They weaponized your commitment and the way you move against you.
Yeah.
They'll do that. Listen. Shauna Solomon says, no, they won't. They absolutely will not. And I think as we come into a greater understanding, Deb, especially with the work that you do, right? The events, conquer. Conquer is such a divine word. It gives me goosebumps. They run all over my body. Because when you're talking about conquer, that means that there was something in the way. There's something for me to overcome. I don't just conquer walking. Right.
Yes.
If I'm going to conquer, there's an obstacle there. And sometimes I'm the obstacle. Sometimes the way I think is the obstacle. The way I was raised is the obstacle. The environment I was in is the obstacle. So when you say conquer with Deb, what you're inherently saying is bring all of your nonsense, your barriers, your blockages, bring it into this space with me. And we're going to overcome it together. You are now no longer alone. Come into this sisterhood that has been built. Connect with people. We're going to walk over your heel together.
Yes.
And I think that is so powerful because for many people, those systems did not exist.
Yes.
And you're creating them from a mindset that is not only needed, but necessary.
Absolutely.
And can I just give you your flowers and say, thank you, sis.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time and the energy and the long nights and dealing with people you probably didn't want to deal with and conquering your own mountains and your own blockages and your own barriers to come out and provide this safe space. Everybody says I say safe space a lot because we need it. And
it's real.
Building this safe space for others, because you could have just taken your little taken your conquer journey and went on about your life.
Yeah.
You could have absolutely done that. And there would be nothing wrong with that. But something in you said, girl, you got it tattooed on you. It's yours. You got to, and you got to bring people with you.
Yes.
And that's not easy. That's a mantle. That's an assignment. That's a calling. It is tiring. Shauna Solomon does the same thing. They know, those of you that could create communities, you know who you are. Yeah. Jada West does it with her. Is it awkward hour? Let me know what it is, Jada. She's creating communities. I have a community. I'm not as good at it as y'all are because I have the attention span of a gnat. So we're gonna work on my ADHD and then we're gonna get back to this community building. But oh my gosh, this is such a right conversation.
Yeah.
I want to ask you one last question. Will you come back? That's not the last question.
Yeah, absolutely. No questions. No questions asked. Of course we will. Yes.
Absolutely. And Jada says it's the socially awkward hour. So community is currency, y'all. Let's get into it. Listen, I do have the attention span of a gnat. That's why I'm such I'm a weird fractional brand and marketing leader because I have the discipline to create strategy. I have the discipline to create and to implement strategy, but I still have the attention span of a gnat. Okay, great. Yeah. Ultimately, Deb Lester, founder, visionary, mindful entrepreneur, all the things, creator of the Conquer with Deb community. Y'all can go to join conquerwithdeb.com if you need to get some of this conquer energy in your life. What does work-life balance mean to you?
It means I think I've given myself permission for the different seasons of it. I think that there is a season in my life where Conquer demands me to be present. Conquer demands me to be in the office. It demands me to be out in the community. It demands me to drain my bank account for the next new idea because I got to go all in. And then there's also a season for setting the business down a bit more and going to get a 2-piece from Popeyes and chilling on the couch today. And I feel like giving myself permission to understand like it's a time and a place for all of it. And it doesn't make the other season good or bad. It's just me, hey, we're on something different right now. Like around the holidays, you need to chill out. Like 2026 is coming, but you're okay. But I know top of the year when my ladies, they're about to get their tax money, they new year, new me. It's all hands on deck. Like we are in the office, we are meeting with the team, we are like, let's go. We have to work. And then being honest with that with people, the people around me, my husband, like we both said Sunday we kind of had a disagreement on like dinner and stuff. I said, baby, I got a busy week. He said, I do too. And it was just like, yeah, we need to talk about what you got, and just making sure that I'm not thinking that even though my gift is so deep and it's so personable, like I still don't abandon just being a human, having a human experience every day and giving myself complete permission for that. And I'm doing all that and still powerful, still dope, still making moves and still on the couch. and all of it works. There's no good or bad to name myself. All of it works.
I love that. I really love that, especially from the relational standpoint. Having those conversations is so key, and not expecting your spouse to get it on either side, because busy for
Right.
you is different than busy for him, and et cetera, et cetera. So absolutely love that. The relationship coach in me is pleased.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's about not being busy. And before everybody's like, wait, what? What tickles me so, right, Deb, is that people think I'm so busy.
Yeah.
They're like, I know you're so busy, but I know you're so busy. I know you probably got something, but
That's so
you're so
relatable.
busy. I'm like, listen, I give the illusion of busyness because we have systems in place. A lot of stuff is scheduled. I'm not sitting here typing all of this stuff. And then sometimes I am, but I'm driving and voice texting at the same time because my brain is insane and it just moves at the speed of light. That's what it does. And when people say I'm busy, 9 times out of 10, I'm laying on the Chase Lounge watching Dateline.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing. Like, because I love that little man with the white hair. I just love like the way his voice sounds. It's so amazing. But I don't want to be booked and busy. I really don't. Somebody said the antithesis, which they said peaceful and paid. I like that. I think we can go deeper, but I haven't figured out what that is. But I don't really want to be booked and busy. I want to approach my life in such a way that I do what I need to do. I go above and beyond in a way that aligns with who I am, not to earn my keep, not to be liked, loved, respected, or compensated, and move things forward. I want order. I really want order. And that's like you said, sometimes there's going to be seasons where there's more to do, right? And then there's going to be some seasons where there's not as much to do. But I think in all things for me, that work-life balance piece is about checking in with myself, not engaging in willful self-rejection and self-abandonment to prove myself. I have nothing to prove.
It's so real.
I have nothing to prove, and I think that coming to that realization was so key, because for the longest time I felt like I did have something to prove. And especially you know this, being in the marketing space, there was a time, and there still is, where anybody and everybody was talking about they were a marketer.
Yeah.
They printed t-shirts, they're a marketer. They pass out flyers, aka guerrilla marketing, which we don't talk about much anymore. They're a marketer. And I'm like, honey, if you're not running strategies, if you're not pulling this data, I like that. I knew she would come through. Thank you, Shauna. If you're not pulling data, if you're not, creating strategy, like stop swiping the word. Like it's not a catch-all.
Right.
And so I felt very strongly like I had to prove myself. And then of course, the codependent patterns and the people-pleasing patterns, that just made that even worse.
Yes.
Meanwhile, still trying to, I'll tell anybody I had low self-esteem and high agency, which is why most people didn't believe I had low self-esteem. Because when we see people that have quote unquote low self-esteem, they're not put together. They're not wearing cute clothes and whatever. I was like, honey, I was always dressed to the nines. But the issue is not being dressed. The issue is how you stand before yourself and feel about yourself when you're naked.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you don't have that cute bag or those cute shoes or whatever, you like falling in love with yourself, you know, from its most naked, not naked,
Right.
naked, from its nakedness. And I think that's something that is a process, and it takes intentionality.
Yeah.
It takes having people around you who will support you in that. And it absolutely takes communities like yours, like Jada's, like Shauna's, and I could go on and on and on. Like Pawpaw's Ice Cream, who also is led by the leader of the Audacity movement. I got a lot of people here like Kuma. I'm talking to my TikTok people now. But Deb, like some good things, this has to come to an end.
Oh my God.
I know the
We're about to
audacity
come
of it
back
all.
to kick off 2026. Maybe we come back and talk about conquering 2026, and we can talk about how we can work through some of this stuff, because it's very real, but it goes deep. So maybe we can do that.
Well, tell everybody where they can reach you and all the goodness.
Yes. So if you're in Dallas, we're having a networking event, Conquering Cocktails, this Saturday, September the 27th. It's networking with the twist of a girls' night out. So if you enjoy a little 1-2 around business and like-minded women here in Dallas, we'll be doing that. And Conquering Cocktails does bounce around to different cities. So you want to make sure you're following us online at Conquer with Deb. You can find us on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, on LinkedIn. And on YouTube, we do have a live show during the week for entrepreneurs, the Wake Up and Conquer show. So if you love these type of conversations, if you love waking up and conquering, then we are live every day at 11 a.m. Central. So you can come talk about conquering your day. And every Friday, I want you to ask yourself, what did I conquer this week? Big or small? There is no wrong answer. Okay.
Well, that'll do it. Listen, Deb, thank you so much for being my guest. And you guys that hung out, I love you guys so much. Give me 1 second to wrap this up and I'll be right with you. The beauty of work-life balance is that though it has become a buzzword, it is something that you get to create for yourself. So if this live stream has made you think about the level of balance or the way that you perceive balance in your life, allow me to challenge you to start to change it. That's the beauty of being you. You are absolutely empowered to do what is best for you, and there's nothing wrong with it. What do I always say? When you bet on you, you've always made the best choice. So thank you for joining us for another Teaching Tuesday, and have a great week.
Have you been on a weight loss journey and the scale just isn't giving you the results you hoped for? Well, meet Thinner, an FDA-registered, all-natural, homeopathic approach that addresses the root causes of how to lose weight and keep it off, especially if hormones are an issue. If you're tired of all of the guesswork and doing it alone, scan the QR code for more info, and let's get you started today.